Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today's session. We'll be starting our session soon. Before that, I myself, Pavitra. I'm from Adaptive Creative Labs and I work as a digital marketing analyst for Adaptive Creative Labs. I will be taking around 2 minutes to 3 minutes to understand or explain who we are and what we do. And then I also explain who's our trainer for the day and then hand over the stage to our trainer Padmaja Narsipur. Sorry, yeah. Yes, we are Skilling a Nation. So we are a team of a seasoned professional with the diverse expertise from various organizations like Intel, NetApp, Spotify, Wipro, Infosys, EY, etc. So with years of experience across these industries, we bring a wealth of knowledge and insight to the world. We are always uh, At our core, we are learning designs experts dedicated to crafting a sticky solutions and products that drive impactful and memorable learning experience. We specializes in enabling effective learning for growing organizations, helping them upskill their teams and achieve their business goals through innovative and tailored solutions. So we also have our clients ranging from VMware to Secure Tech. uh, we have built thousands of hours of learning content for companies across India, UK, US, South Asia, and Europe. Uh, we also provide effective learning experience with our learning products and custom hybrid programs. We've got various methods of programs. Uh, One is cohort based courses, usually run between 3 to 12 weeks duration by various topics. Industry experts trainer will be part of these courses and they'll guide you through entire process. We also have a program called Smart Start. This is a reinforcement learning wherein the scenarios are used, real time scenarios are used in a strip so that the learners will understand the concept easily. We also have master classes and workshops for a shorter duration. This is one of the master class that you all are attending. We also have a digital library called Smarties. I request all the participants to go to smarties.club and enroll yourself for the webinars. We also have free and paid webinars listed over there. I kindly request all of you to go to smarties.club and register yourself now. So, this is just not for working professionals. Smarties Club is known even for the freshers who are in the zone of upskilling themselves, also try to land their job in the corporate. And also, this is for working professionals who are trying to shift their career from one industry to another industry. So, let me introduce our today's trainer, Padmaja Narsipur. She is a product designer, entrepreneur, and marketeer, plus a mom. Padmaja brings over 25 years of rich experience in the fields of technology, user experience, learning and development, and marketing. Her professional journey is marked by her passion for fostering innovation, guiding teams, and empowering individuals to achieve their full potential in dynamic and ever evolving industries. So, there is not just 25 years, I would say it's more than 30 years, I guess. So there's a lot to learn from Padmaja. So Padmaja will be guiding through today's session, and I request all of you to make the best of this session and ask plenty of questions to Padmaja so that at the end of the day, uh, the takeaway that you're going to go with this is huge. And I request all of you to kindly participate. Please unmute and ask questions whenever possible. Also, you can leave your question in the chat box and ask questions. We will be happy to help you out here. Over to you, Padmaja.
Thank you, Pavitra. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, let me share my screen. Hope you can see my screen now. Is my screen visible, Pavitra?
No, not at Padmaja.
Oh, okay.
Can you, I think I should stop staring from
Will
here.
you? Yeah. Let
Yes,
me.
yes,
Is my screen visible now?
not yet.
Hold on. Let me share again.
Yep.
Okay. Let me now know.
Yes, it's coming up. It's there.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So, thanks for joining us this evening, and we're going to be focused on UX microcopy today. And before I get into my deck, I just want to. I was doing a casual search on the job portals just to highlight how the UX writer role is a much sought after role. So if you do a plain search on UX writer, now this can take many other forms, the role itself, right? It could be like a UX communications, it could be product writer, it could be technical writer, it could be content writer. There are many different roles, but the part of what the job entails is essentially the same. These kind of roles, you can see there are 75 plus jobs on Indeed. If you look on LinkedIn, and I think the scope of this is India level, there are 515 roles. And if you look on Naukri, it says 35. Like I said again, I'm not looking at all the different roles, but you can see that there is a demand for the role. The entry level salary is around 2.6 lakhs per annum, but it keeps going up all the way to 21 lakhs per annum. It varies depending on your expertise. Let's say you are a UX writer in technology or in biotech or medical writing or pharma. You can start off with a much higher salary, and you'll have to tweak the search and find those jobs. But this is an underserved kind of role, in that there are not very many qualified people. But if you are a person who's got some amount of domain expertise and would like to work on some path breaking products and innovations, you should be looking at UX writing. So today's webinar is sort of an introduction to UX microcopy or UX copy or microcopy, which is, it's the same thing known by different terms. I'm going to focus on this, and at the end of the webinar, I'll talk about some more learning programs we have planned for this role. So let's get started. So, like I said, this is UX Microcopy. Welcome to the webinar. And Pavitra has already introduced me. So, my name is Padmaja. I like to call myself a user advocate. I work on very many service and product teams. I bat for the user in terms of usability of the product or service. I'm also a writer, I'm a product designer. I started off my career with Intel, and then have been working with various different companies, of which significantly Clearly Blue and Adaptic are my two creations. So let's start with what microcopy is. So microcopy is sort of an umbrella term for words or phrases in UI, which is user interfaces, related to three different kinds of things. So before a user takes a particular action in your product or service, you need to motivate them. So motivation is part of the reason for microcopy on the screen. Instructions that come with the action are the second piece of microcopy. And third is feedback after the user has taken the action. What does this all mean? If it's very, very abstract, let me break it down to you. So take a typical, this is a pop-up window I found on some website, Content Science Review, right? You would have seen a lot of such screens, pop-up windows, dialogue boxes as you go through various different platforms and websites on the net. So here they're asking people to register to the website. So here are two pieces. One is motivation. This is what this copy you see on the website on the page. This is known as micro copy. Okay, this is not copy is typically in marketing language. Copy is content that we write, right? So it could be lots of copy. It could be copy describing a product in a brochure or a web page. You know, the copy runs into hundreds of words. Why we call it micro copy is this copy could be just a few words, it could be 10 words, it could be 5 words, but the impact is huge. And here you see copy that provides motivation. So here it says join the content curious, register for free. So there are two pieces of motivation here. So it says join the content curious, right? So it's giving a group of users a very quirky name saying content curious. So you automatically aspire to become part. Yes, I am curious about content. Let's see what this whole website has to offer, right? And the second piece of motivation is register for free. So that's telling me that I don't need to pay money to join this group of content curious people. So this is the motivation. And then it's giving me instruction. So for each text box that I have to fill out to register, there's a small piece of microcopy. First name, last name, email, and password, 8 characters, right? These are the, so it's very simple and nice microcopy, right? And again, this is also part of the motivation copy. You get a bi-weekly email, you access their library, you save articles, follow topics, see suggested content. So you get a whole host of benefits all for free. So this is motivation, this is instruction. So if you do the what you've been instructed to do and hit the register button, you would register. So this in essence captures two of the three key reasons why we write UX microcopy. The third reason, feedback, right? So let's say I entered in the previous screen, although they say that password must be 8 characters long, I entered something which is 5 characters, say. So then an error message pops up. It says, an error has occurred. The password must be at least 8 characters long. Please try again. If you continue to experience this problem, blah, 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 contact our support team. This is feedback. So at every point in their interaction with the website, the user must know what they have to do, what action they have to go further in their journey with the website, right? So feedback is key. So let us say you just pop up an error and say password, please try again, right? Now this pop up, although I have just taken a piece of the screen, there should be a close button so that I can close and try again. And let's say the error keeps occurring again and again, no matter what I do. What do I do? If I'm stuck, then contact the support team, right? For every action, every sequence you plan out for your users on your product, on your website, you need to give them a route to, escape out of one into another and so on. You cannot leave them at a dead end. So feedback is very critical so that they don't get frustrated and give up on your website and close the tab. So these are the three key reasons why we write microcopy. Why should we bother? Any thoughts on why we should bother even with this microcopy? Why should we write? So because users are so jaded nowadays. If you just put this up and then if I put up an error screen, is it enough? Why should I bother with all this feedback, motivation, instruction, and so on? Any thoughts? Okay, so there are a few key reasons why microcopy is so very important for product success, especially with technology products. In fact, it's not even with technology products. It's with all kind of products. Imagine that you got your child a toy that needs to be assembled and you don't have assembly instructions. Or imagine you went to a store like IKEA and bought home a piece of furniture that needs to be assembled without instructions. Imagine you got a piece of cloth and you wanted to do something with that cloth. You don't know without instructions. Maybe you take it to the tailor and the tailor actually cuts it and then creates a dress out of it, right? There's always a sequence. You need steps, you need information, you need content, you need feedback, you need instruction. Without all that, something which is a raw material cannot be converted into a usable product. And for a product to be usable, you need microcopy. So that is what it's all about, usability. It's not enough if you just create a product and throw it out in the wind and do some marketing and hope people sign up and they buy your goods and services and you make a lot of money. Usability is a huge factor for product usage and therefore for profitability. Imagine if you went on Amazon.com and you were not able to complete a transaction. Maybe things got stuck in the shopping cart, maybe you got error messages, maybe you were not able to find the products you wanted. There could be millions of reasons why a website is not usable. And all you have to do as the user is just close the tab and you're done. Whereas the company which has spent probably tons of money to bring you to their website will lose out, right? So that is why companies employ what are known as UX writers. They most often start with product managers who do usability writing or user experience writing, who write the microcopy. Many times they bring in domain experts who know the product and ask them to write. And still many times people who run mature product groups, they opt to bring in specialist UX writers to take care of usability. Engagement is also another key factor in product success. So if somebody visits your website and they're not and they find that the copy is not engaging enough. Let us say one of my pet peeves as a website user is when I go to a website and if the website has English with lot of grammar errors, then I typically bounce out of that page. I just close the tab and I'm gone within a few seconds. There could be people who load up websites where the video is not loading. It takes several seconds and the page itself doesn't load with images, or the copy is atrocious, or the flows are not well defined. You cannot engage the user, they will bounce out, they'll lose interest. It's a famous saying nowadays that website visitors have less attention span than a goldfish, which is around 8 seconds. The statistic nowadays is that you need to engage your user within 1.7 or 1.8 seconds or they're gone, right? The third key reason is to enhance the branding of your product or service. What I mean by that is you build a brand as a product owner or a service owner or as a business owner and an entrepreneur. You build a brand very carefully over very many years. Your brand is probably known for reliability, for consistency, for a whole host of other things. But if when somebody experiences your product, they see that the usability is shabby or the product is not engaging, your branding can come crashing down. People will say, it just takes a few casual negative review comments online to bring a brand down. Online reputation management is a big thing, and part of reputation management is taking care of the user experience and usability of your product. Finally, differentiation. This is a key thing because if you look at products competing for the same users, imagine Amazon and Flipkart, right? They are both huge e-commerce web stores competing for the same. You could find the same products on Amazon and Flipkart, but what differentiates the two is one of the things could be usability or the microcopy. How easy or how usable is the product. If all the different features are almost the same, usability and user experience can be a huge differentiator between products. And if you provide a better user experience to your customer, you have a competitive advantage that your customer doesn't. So, this is another key factor. So it needs to be just right. The micro copy should not be too long, because with our shrinking attention spans, we can no longer read lots and lots of text. But shouldn't be so short that you don't get the meaning across. So just right, it's just like baking, right? It's an art and a science. You need to do a lot of trial and error. You need to test with smaller groups. You need to put it out there, see what's working, what's not working. You need to work very closely with your branding, marketing, SEO, and social media teams to get it just right. So, usability and user experience is a team sport, it cannot be done in isolation. So here are some examples of bad microcopy. Look at this. This is, I think I cut out the URL. This is one of our government websites. You can see, click here, click here, click here. So many clicks. Then there are so many menu items. I think I didn't get all of it in this screenshot. Then there's so much text, amendment numbers galore, all sorts of scheme, numbers, dates. This is very, very, it's cognitive overload for the user. There's so much text, there's no intent behind this text. There's a lot of photos, some few photos, scattered text, lots of different calls to action. So you know how it is. If you look at the IRCTC website, for example, when you go to book your railway ticket, you can experience bad usability, right? There's so much happening on that website that it's almost a heroic effort to get one train ticket booked and confirmed. So these are bad examples of microcopy that's not well baked. So how do we ensure that microcopy is well done? What are some of the key precepts to doing good microcopy? One is, this is the formula that we use for almost a lot of content writing. We say keep kissing, the KISS principle, right? So keep it simple and sweet is the KISS acronym, or it could be keep it simple and stupid, to the extent that it's so simple that anybody can understand it, right? So keep it jargon free, by which I mean, imagine this, right? What is this strive project 2022 0601 14 20 51? This is some internal number of the government, right? What does it mean to you and me? I think this is some skill development website, right? What does it mean to you and me, the average user? These numbers are meaningless. This is a lot of jargon. As per Karnataka government allocation of business rules, this is all jargon. We don't need all of this. We need simple text saying that this is what the website is for, these are the benefits, here's how you avail of it, right? Should not be awkward also. Some people try to make it so simple that it becomes meaningless. You should also test for confusion, because language is ambiguous many times, especially the English language. So the same phrase can mean two different things in many situations. We don't want to create more confusion if we can help it. So we should test it with a few users. And always important to keep our copy grammatically correct, because we don't want to this is one of the easiest things we can do. There are so many grammar checks, language checks, editing tools out there. Why don't we keep it grammatically correct? It's one of the easiest ways to engage the user, by writing clean copy that's grammatically correct. Okay. Before I jump to voice and tone, let me pause if there are any questions. Okay. Any questions, Pavitra?
No, but we can proceed.
Okay, let's keep going. So the next thing, I already mentioned that we should not confuse our user. So one of the key fundamental principles when we write copy is consistency. Because if you are inconsistent with your copy, it can come across as inauthenticity, that plain being dishonest actually. So let's say on your home page you offer some product for x rupees, and then they click and they go to the shopping cart, they load the product in the shopping cart, then you add a bunch of taxes, fees and all that, and you end up looking at the final bill, and it's blown up, it's inflated, it's x plus thousands of rupees. This often happens on airline websites. They would be advertising some sort of ticket for summer discount or festival discount for very cheap 2000 rupees, Bangalore, Bombay or something like that. But by the time you go through the entire sequence, the ticket price will almost cost you 4000 rupees. It could be double or more. There could be lot of fees and airline fees, taxes, airport fees, all of that added, and you end up with lot of very the whole experience leaves you feeling cheated, that these people advertised for something and then you're ending up with something else. People will switch off, and more importantly, they will also not come back to your website. So be very careful about consistency, work with your product teams, and ensure that you deliver what you promise, right? And another key thing is, we often think microcopy is all about just the verbal, what we write. It could also be signs on the website. It could be colors. It could be, so it, the whole thing works in tandem, right? What you convey to the user, the entire experience, whether with the flows, simple flows, the language that is easy and consistent, and whether the colors, the branding, all of it are blend together to give the user the best possible user experience to fulfill their journey. That is, they put the product in the cart and they take it out, and they're a happy customer. If that is achieved, then your consistency objective is achieved. The second thing you need to watch out for is the personality of your website. And here I'm talking mainly of website because a lot of us deal with technology products nowadays. But much of this could equally well apply to non technology products as well. It could be, for example, shampoo that is packaged up, right? So, what is the personality of your brand? And this touches upon aspects of branding that marketeers and branding specialists focus on a lot. How formal should the personality of your brand be, right? Now, let us say let me take up the example of a non technology product here. Let us say we are talking about a shampoo that is an anti dandruff shampoo, right? And we have built a brand saying that we have come up with a new formula which is all science based, right? Now your branding team may have decided that it should be your whole product name, and all the information that you convey with the product should also all be science based, lots of names of chemicals and things like that. You would probably opt for a more formal kind of language with the shampoo, the insert, almost make it seem like a medicine, right? You can see this many Ayurvedic products, for example. If you look at Biotique as a product, they will put in prominent text on their labeling, product labeling. They'll say that this is not a cosmetic product, this is an Ayurvedic medicine, right? Then the entire language changes to a medicinal language, right? On the other hand, if you are coming up with something for the youth market and you want to use some youth slang, some Gen Z slang, you want to make it fun, then you would opt for a much more informal tone of voice. Humor is another thing that lot of copywriters use to great effect to draw, to engage with the audience, to draw eyeballs, whether in your social media, whether within your product flows itself. So humor is something you can use, wit and humor. Slang is something you can use, but again you have to watch out. You should not make it so jargony and so much humor, so much. Let's say you're targeting both Gen Z and people who are a slightly older group, and you use so much Gen Z slang that the slightly older group gets thrown off and they tune out of your product, right? So again, it needs to be just right. It can't be too much, it can't be too less. And this is something that comes with a lot of experience, but even with experience, you could get it wrong. I would say it comes with a lot of testing. So the pace of speech, the warmth with which you convey, I will show you some examples of all of this, right? And there are a huge number of different kinds of messages that we write as UX micro copywriters. We write action messages, we write confirmations, we write error messages, all different kinds of messages. It will become more evident when I show you some examples. Here are some examples, right? So here's an example where they're asking people for some information, right? And they say this information is required to support this COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. They're probably asking for the age of the user when they're registering the user, right? So, a humorous way of doing this is because no user will remember all this COPPA and all that, right? A humorous way of, sorry, we're asking you for so much information. Our lawyers made us ask this information, right? Small pieces of humor can be injected if you're taking your user through lots of forms to actually take information from them. Small pieces of humor can lighten the journey versus antagonizing the user. So, should we use humor or not is a very key question. So, it actually depends. You need to first of all figure out if it suits your brand personality and it suits your target audience. Sometimes people overdo humor, right? Let's say we are going through a multi page form submission. If you keep using humor on page 2, page 3, page 4, people will get fed up of it. They'll say, just let me go through the entire registration and be done with it. Enough of your humor, right? Instead of that, maybe a little bit at the beginning and the little bit at the end could be just fine. You should gauge the frequency of how you can use your humor, and sometimes it helps to work with your SEO team to figure out where people are bouncing out. Let's say a transaction on your website entails 7 different clicks, and you see that a large number of people are bouncing out on the third piece of the transaction. Then you need to sit down with your SEO team and look through the content that the copy that the user encounters on that third step, and figure out, is the copy not helpful enough? Is it not clear enough? Am I using too little humor, too much humor? Am I not using anything at all? Maybe they got fed up of the whole experience and they bounced out. You need to test with a few people, test with the right TG, and here TG means target group. Test with the target user, target audience of your website, and figure out, ask them, why are you stopping the process on page 3? What's going on? So all of this is the art part of it. You almost need to be a good psychologist to understand the psyche of your users and design something just right for them. So let's take a look again at something. So this was something which I found to be very, very awkward, right? This is Intuit. They have a product called Turbo. So somebody is actually unsubscribing from the newsletter, right? So this is the page they're taking users to. First Brad and Angelina and now us. This is their weak attempt at humor. They're saying Brad and Angelina are splitting up, and you are splitting up with us as well. Let's take a step back and really think about this. So, typically, when you unsubscribe from a newsletter or something like that, you just want one click and be done with it. This can get really irritating, this kind of humor when somebody. So, you also have to gauge the situation when you're using humor. So, be very careful with that humor thing. So then tone of voice. So like I said, when you're designing the tone of voice of your micro copy, you have to look at your brand values, vision, and mission, figure out what exactly works for that particular brand values that have been designed for the brand. You also have to figure out your target audience. So if your target audience are kids, for example, you need to talk to them. You should not talk down to them. Kids are very, very sharp, and nowadays kids are digital natives. They will instantly switch off. So you need to talk at their level, not talk as an adult, pedantically talking down to the child, right? So how can you figure out what is good and what is not good? How can you figure out what works? Let's say you became a UX writer on a massive project where you're talking to millions of people, some sort of e-commerce storefront, right? Here are some places where you should be looking to see what the users are talking, and what is the language the users are using, how are users conversing amongst themselves as well as with your team. So it could be online chat transcripts, right? Users who are contacting your customer support team. It could be on answers to open questions in surveys that you have conducted. Online communities are a great source of information about your users. Try and understand your users. Go become a member of the same online communities where your users are. See what kind of language they're using. For example, for many of our India websites, English may not be the first preference of language for many of our users. They may be using Hindi, they may be using one of the state languages, they may be using a mixture of, for example, Kannada and English, right? So if you have a product where you're using a lot of formal Kannada that is Sanskritized to a huge extent, that may not resonate with your user. You may need to bring it down, make it simple, use a mixture of Kannada and English. So figure out in the online communities what the users are doing. Look at feedback and comments that are made about your brand on social media, or it could be about your competitors as well. So if you're a new product and you don't know yet what they think of your brand, see what they think of your competitors' brands. Usability test recordings are something that UX people use a lot. Also, call center calls, transcripts from focus groups, and any other platform where your audience hangs out. You want to go there and figure out who they are, what they do, how they speak, and so on. So, it's very important to build a relationship between your brand and the user. So, this is something I cannot stress enough. So, what is the relationship? So, let us say the relationship between your brand and the user is of friends, right? Then the kind of the micro copy that you write should be as the product talk as the brand talking to a friend. So, semi informal, little bit of humor, pulling of leg, and so on. Let us say the relationship between your brand and the user is of between a mentor and a mentee. At that point, then it becomes a matter of instruction, right? You're giving instruction to the mentee, you're guiding them in taking some actions. It could also be a celeb and a fan, for example. Let's say you're building a celebrity website and the brand is of the celebrity, right? Then you want to talk to the fan in terms of fan language, correct? So there are lots of different ways you define the relationship between the brand and the user, and that relationship governs the kind of language you use in your UX microcopy. Hope that makes sense, right? So the key is whether it's friends or best friends or manager and personal assistant or lovers or whatever it is, you need to converse. You need to have a conversation between the machine and the man. That is the intent of the microcopy. So sometimes you can just say what it is. So error, please try again. Now this is a very robotic way of saying it, right? So what error? If I'm filling out a form, I don't know what error you're talking of. Instead of that, you can be a little more specific. You can say log in to perform this action or enter a valid email address. Here is something that is really descriptive. Create an account, verify your identity, then complete your transaction. So look at how you want to do it. So I had a small exercise here that Pavitra, should I go through the exercise?
We do have Benila with us, but she's hearing us as a viewer. So only if
Okay.
she can come join us the stage,
Okay.
then we could go with that.
Just
Yeah.
see. If
Yeah.
not, I'll just describe the exercise. This is something people can do offline also. So here's a small piece of micro copy that I would want the writer. You can try it out at home. Let's say you want the user to say, enter the phone number you would like to dial. Correct? So how would you say this if you were talking to your best friend? Or how would you say this if you were talking to, whether the if the relationship is between a salesperson and a buyer on a website? Let's say the brand is the salesperson and my user is the buyer. And how would you couch it if the brand is the manager and the user is a personal assistant? So the same sentence can be written in different ways depending on the brand user relationship. So this is something people can try, right? Again, please select the preferred payment method: mentor and mentee, lovers, leader and led. There are three different ways. I would ask you to try it. So I mean, there are many different ways to try it. So if we did this exercise, right? So let's say we say enter the phone number you would like to dial. So here, simple way of writing this microcopy would be like, "Hey friend, how about giving me your phone number?" Something like that. Or if it's a salesperson and buyer, we would say, "Hello." You would have the name of the person by then, possibly. So hello, and you say their first name, and you say, "Please enter the phone number that you would like to dial." So use up please because you are working as a salesperson. Your brand as the salesperson persona, right? If it's a manager and a personal assistant, then the language would be slightly tweaked and couched differently. So, this is the way you would sort of finesse how you're presenting your brand via the microcopy on the website. So let me keep going on. The microcopy can be used in multiple different ways, as I've been stressing through the webinar. We can drive experience and engagement. So there are sign up forms, login forms, password recovery pop ups, contact us pages, error messages, whole lot of different kinds of forms. All of these drive the user experience and engagement. When we use microcopy to improve usability, we actually help make tasks simpler. I showed you very early on in the webinar how the text boxes had the first name, last name, and so on. So it's very simple. You can just, wherever it says first name, click there and enter your first name and so on. Avoiding friction is a very important part of usability. So, friction means how easy or difficult it is to get a task done. If you wanted to submit some information to on a website and it took seven massive clicks to get through and submit that information, you are more liable to lose your user along the way. So it's the microcopy or the UX writer's duty to sort of see how that 7 pages can be compressed into one simple one, and the user submits that information and the journey continues. So avoiding friction is a big part of usability. The third piece is to support the user experience. So there could be a lot of widgets and different kinds of buttons and all sorts of controls on a screen. And it's the duty of the UX writer to sit with the product design and development team to figure out what kind of copy should show up when the mouse hovers over a button. Maybe you want to show some sort of tooltip or help text when the mouse hovers over something, or when the mouse clicks on something. So all of these kind of collaborative activities improve the usability of the product. So I'll end the webinar with a note on usability. Take a look at this typical sign up form, right? There is name, there's some information on your name is how your friends will see you. So they maybe they're signing up to some online Facebook group or some sort of community, right? So all sorts of instructions, and there's a checkbox right here. Yes, I'd like to receive email regarding news, product updates, and special offers. So whole lot of instructions, not a lot of motivational message. Let's see what happens here. So I think I put this here just to show you something that is not very well designed, right? I think that if you see this in contrast to something I showed you very early on, in contrast to, let me see this, you can see how simple this is. First name, last name. You don't need to explain to somebody what their name means, right? So let's get back to this form. Your name is how your friends see you. Do you really need this kind of copy? You don't. So you can make it very, very simple. Name, you can say first name, last name, and 4 to 40 characters. You can just put it in the text box and you're done, right? Here's an example. Most people who have an email address already know how an email is formatted. And you can build in some validation code so that if somebody enters email that is not as per the format, you will actually show them an error message. And this is what you will use to log in, is totally superfluous. So you can say email address slash username, something like that, and be done with it. You have to understand and gauge the technological capability of your users. Perhaps this kind of text would be very apt maybe 20 years ago, but today, when looking at a TG that is very technically savvy, you may not need so much text. So, this is just a note on usability, correct? I also want to talk about something known as the curse of knowledge. Now, as UX writers, we are all quite technically savvy, all of us in this call, and we assume a lot of things about our audience. So, again, this is about knowing your audience. Let's say you're creating instructions for a phone for senior citizens. How would you write that manual, right? You would assume, you would have to actually shed all your assumptions, whatever you know about phones, feature phones, smartphones, and everything, and then write, right? Look at this. So this is an instruction saying card pin. Your card pin, personal identification number, is the number you are asked to enter when you use your card for purchases or at an ATM. So much information, correct? But it is hidden within this I button, so that if there is some user who doesn't know what a pin is, it's there upon click. Nowadays most users know that I stands for information. Upon a click, you show them what a pin means. So you can use various different user UI artifacts, like this button, or like a tooltip which I spoke about. Typically when you hover on something, the tooltip pops up, right? a small piece of text explaining what you're hovering on. So use artifacts like that to actually explain some things to your users. Of course, the first step is to know your user and to figure out if they really need this kind of explanation. Or the second step is to actually account for all your users. Let's say you're building it for a diverse set of users, different kinds of users. It's very useful to put in this kind of information in the microcopy. Here's another example of autoplay. This is no longer there, but this was how when YouTube introduced the autoplay feature, they came out with this microcopy. They said when autoplay is enabled, a suggested video will automatically play next. So they kept this on for quite a while because it was a new feature they had introduced to their audiences. And audiences, YouTube is catering to millions, if not billions, of people around the world, right? Large number of people need to understand what autoplay is before they turn off this tool, this text, right? So nowadays, if you go to YouTube, this text doesn't exist anymore. We just now have the autoplay is on kind of information, and there is a switch, and it's turned on. So because now YouTube has done enough testing and enough reading of the weblogs to understand that people now know what autoplay is. So they don't need to explain what autoplay is anymore. Look at this. Enter the name number of the product you want to register. Let's say this is, I think this is from an HP website where you can go register your printer for AMC and service and so on, right? So how do you know where the product number is? Where can I find this? Here's a useful link, right? How do I find my product name or number? You write microcopy there. So turn to the back of your printer and look at the gray sticker there, and that's where you'll find the product name or number. And that's what you need to put in here. So you don't overload your user at the get go with all the information. You hide it with small things like this, an information button, a tooltip, or a link to a pop up where you show the information on demand or on request. How do I do this, right? So here's again an example of something that is, I would say this is something that's very evident. So here less is more in this case. So manufacturer, select the car manufacturer. You don't really need to give this. When you say manufacturer, it's enough. This is better microcopy, right? You don't need to overload with so much text. Year of manufacture. Select year car was manufactured. Why on earth do you need to say that? You've already said year of manufacture. They'll just click on the drop down here and select the year of manufacture. Model, select the car model. Again, unnecessary. So these are the ways you can minimize the UI, the micro copy that you show on the UI. So hide it behind a link, hide it behind a information button, pull it up when the user clicks on it and asks for that information, or look at how you can make your user interface clean and keep the text simple and minimal. So the best way to do all of this is to again listen to your user, know your user, figure out what they like, what they do, how they talk, what they prefer in terms of their user interface, and build it for them. Build the microcopy that they respond to. That is the gist of it. So when we do usability testing for users, so I've just got a typical kind of scenario here. So you as the UX writer would go in with the UX designer as sort of like a facilitator or observer, put the user in front of the laptop or whatever device, it could be a smartphone for example, have them start interacting with the product, give them a few tasks, tell them register on the website or on the app, and buy something, put it in the shopping cart, and finish the purchase. Those could be the tasks that you give the user, and then you keep on observing the user as they go through the task. see how they respond to the flow, the user interface, the micro copy, and so on. And then you interview the user. Why are you clicking on this and not on that? So you could choose to do it multiple ways. You could just observe them on one go. You could talk to them, keep talking to them on the second go, interview them to figure out why they made the choices they made, and you could also ask them to give you feedback. So talk aloud is one of the typical methods of usability testing. Tell them to keep talking as they interact with your product, and as they finish all the tasks. So this will give you a huge wealth of information about the usability of your product. So that brings me to the end of the webinar. Like I said, this was just a glimpse into the fascinating world of usability and user experience design. As you can see, a lot of it is to do with designing the flows and working with the designers to build out something that is highly usable. And writing the right microcopy is critical to the success of the product or the service. I would highly encourage you all to explore this fascinating part of building products and services. We are planning to come out with weekend sprints where we do a focused study of micro copywriting with lots of hands on activities, exercises, and lots of brainstorming and looking at different usability case studies. It would be a certificate program, it would be a weekend program. If any of you are interested, please do sign up and join us for the weekend program. And that's about my talk. Open to any questions. Pavitra, back to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Padmaja. That was a wonderful session that we had today. Uh, okay, thank you so much, Padmaja. Thanks for the wonderful session. And thanks everyone for joining today's session.
Okay, thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
Pavitra, for
Bye.
hosting it. Bye bye.
Yes. Bye.